Hello everybody. This video is going to be a slightly different style to all our previous ones. We have been putting out videos on this YouTube channel for approximately about 11 years now, and we've not really done one of this style or particular style. Mainly they've been about products, specific products on the website, and also some instructional videos there how to do things. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to do some instructional videos in future, but we're going to try and make them a little bit more engaging. Obviously, you're going to see the faces of the people behind Spy Equipment UK. And starting here today, I thought what I'd talk about is how the company came about and how we've got to this point now and the thinking behind it. So I'm going to take you back to early 2000s when I started as a private investigator. And I started a company called Mission Investigations. And at that time, I just launched into it and was taking a lot of work subcontractually as an insurance fraud investigator, which entailed me doing part surveillance, part interview. Interview sounds boring, but actually it's not. But I'm not going to really talk about that here today. The surveillance side of things is what got us to Spy Equipment UK in the end. Now, in the early 2000s, to support the investigation side of things, the surveillance side of things, there wasn't much in the way of surveillance equipment about. Mainly, we'd use a camera of some description, video camera onto little digital videotapes, and they were held in hand, and we'd have to sit in a car, van, out on location somewhere, maybe even in bushes, and grab video of people doing stuff that quite often they shouldn't be doing, or at least gathering intelligence on people. And that's, I guess, a key thing to the investigation side of things and the spy side of things. It's not all about spying, it's about gathering intelligence, putting that information together. Now, yes, there is a spy element to it, and you need to be covert about the way you do the investigation in that regard. And this is where the equipment started to come in. In the early 2000s, really the only available stuff from an investigator's point of view were things like button cameras, were tie cameras. We had bag cameras as well. Now, the bag camera was a big sports bag with a camera in the end of it and a Sony Hi8 video recorder. If you don't know about those, you'll probably have to look that up. But they were sort of, £600 or £700 just for the recorder. The bag cameras, they were selling, just the camera in the end of a bag for £1,000. But of course, you could monetize that because each time you use the bag camera, you charge a bit extra for having that sort of equipment to get that sort of evidence that you couldn't get any other way. Other things were available as well, UHF, FM transmitters, basic recorders, etc. All these things put together enabled gathering evidence and intelligence for an investigation. Now, I remember the first Now, I remember the first type of audio transmissions. Start again. Now, I remember the UHF transmitters, which were very expensive at the time. You'd spend many hundreds of pounds just getting one piece of kit, and you'd have to place a transmitter in a location with a receiver elsewhere with the recorder attached, and usually the recorder would be placed maybe outside of a premises under bushes in a plastic enclosure to ensure that that it didn't sort of get hit by the weather, get wet, etc. And I at that time decided that I'd try and get hold of some of this kit, and actually there's the FM transmitters I went for. And also tracking devices. Tracking devices were in their infancy. I ended up getting an FM transmitter, and I was hiring it out on a weekly basis to people. And this was getting us information, intelligence with which to solve problems, but also to also give us a basis for a surveillance. So maybe we gather some information to enable us to go and do surveillance. And that sometimes it's forgotten that the equipment can do the work that you couldn't do yourself because you can't place yourself in that situation. So the equipment gathers intelligence, gathers information, and then on the back of that, then you can do an investigation. Now, these days, nothing's changed in that regard, in that respect. However, I would say that quite often the equipment that we sell now is so varied and so smart that you can actually do a lot more of the investigation yourself. And that's the whole point of Spy Equipment UK. So we used our investigation skills and also the equipment to get the information to put together an investigation to get to the bottom of the case. Quite often these were used in domestic matters, and we're going to be doing another video about domestic cases, and we'll talk more in depth about that. So how did all this lead to me starting Spy Equipment UK? Well, in 2006, I recall having a conversation with somebody who just started an e-commerce site. In fact, it was the Christmas of 2005. And they were telling me how they'd set up this e-commerce site. And I actually thought, yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do. Yes, I had websites for the investigation side. There were information sites. There were means for people to get in touch with us and contact us on the phone, discuss their cases, so on and so forth. And obviously tell people about the facets of investigation that we offered. However, this guy was talking about a product site where he was selling products. And I thought, that'd be something I wanted to do. But I didn't really have an idea the way forward on it. I hadn't put two and two together. Anyway, in March 2006, after a really, really heavy week of investigation work all over the country, all over the UK, I'd actually gone into, funny enough, a fast food shop, chip shop, that I hadn't gone into before. And I won't tell you the reason behind that. It's a long-winded story. Anyway, I ended up in this chip shop and got speaking to the guy behind the counter, and I said, look, he said, well, you look tired. I said, yeah, I've been all over the country, long hours, this, that, and the other. And he asked me what I did. So I told him. And he said, oh, my brother-in-law makes some of those bugs and things like that. Do you use those? And I said, yeah, I do. And I had to think about it while he was sorting out my food. I said, you haven't got his number, have you? And of course, he said, yeah, no problem. So he put me in touch with him. And cut long story short, I got access to products at a trade price. And then I thought, that website I've always been thinking about, why not? But I had no idea about e-commerce. I didn't know anything about e-commerce websites, how to set up in that way, etc. So I initially had a little chat with a web designer who did my previous website. He said he didn't really know about e-commerce, but we could use an open source site to put products on if we wanted to. And I thought this is going to be a big task because I don't know anything about setting this up. I was going to have to do all the inputting, text and images and all the rest of it. So it was a big mountain to climb rather than getting somebody else to do the whole lot for me, which would have cost me so much more money, and also I'd have had less control over it. I didn't know anything about payment gateways, how that all worked. So it was a steep learning curve. But I ended up a couple of weeks later, after pontificating for an extended period of time, thinking about whether I should go ahead with it. And I thought, you know what, screw it, just do it. And we'll go ahead as a sideline. I can still do the investigation work. I'll start trying to get this together in the background, and eventually we'll have a website. We can probably start selling these products on. Like I said, at that time, I only had one supplier for the products, but that was good enough to get me started anyway. And I thought it's a case of it's something I didn't have before. It's something that complemented doing the investigation work, so why not? Coincidentally, at that time, some of the investigation work was dropping off. Some of the insurance companies were not spending quite so much money on investigating their customers who were on the take. So actually, work slowed down a little bit. It meant I did get to spend a bit more time on the website, and I muddled my way through. And what started off as being probably a couple of months' task to get this going ended up being nearly 6 months, and cost me a little bit more money than expected. However, we got to a point where, cross fingers, and we launched the website. Unfortunately, the payment gateway didn't work, and it took me another month of talking to various people and the gateway service suppliers, etc., to get everything rigged correctly so that it would work automatically. Cross fingers again, and off we went. And then it suddenly started to work, and I started to get sales. But at the same time, I was still doing investigation work. But the sales just got more and more, and you think 2 months later you've kind of made it, and you haven't. You're really just starting. And then, of course, I started spending more time on looking into getting a different type of product on the site that wasn't enough from this one supplier. And I went through a process of gathering things together to making the spy equipment site better, and was doing the odd investigation in the meantime, or the investigation work, just to keep some money coming through. I actually didn't take any money out of the company for nearly a year, just to get it going. And like I said, originally it was only going to be a sideline anyway. So, I never really thought that it was going to turn into what it has turned into, the mainstay. So once we got these other products on, I then started to need a team to help me. So I got somebody involved and to take sales calls while sometimes I was out taking on investigation work. And as we went along, gradually built up the whole thing. Now we've been on a bit of a journey, and we've had the credit crunch along the way. There's been all sorts of different things that have affected the way the company functions. However, we now are in a position where we offer a very broad product range, and we also offer, you will have seen, our own products. Now, this came originally from my engineering background, which is where I was originally. I did an apprenticeship, etc. And I always wanted to make products. When I was doing the investigation work, I recall actually it was a UHF bug that wouldn't work on a normal telephone line. And what had happened was broadband was coming in at that time. And so that affected the way these things worked. Now, the reason was because the line had to be split into the data side and the audio calling side, which was the analog side of the line. And you put a bug on the line and it wouldn't function properly, or it would knock out your broadband. So I thought about this and thought we really need to have an ADSL filter. Those that have been around for a little while will know what an ADSL filter is. It would split the line into the analog side for the calls and the other side for the internet. But we needed to build one of these transmitters into there. Now, I got somebody to build that for me because I didn't know that the electronic side, my background wasn't electronics, but I had the idea. And then eventually I passed it on to the person who was originally supplying me the products. Once I started Spy Equipment UK, I said, hey, maybe we could make this. Nobody else had thought of it. Nobody else was offering it. So he made it, and then of course he started to sell it to everybody else. And this happened on a few occasions where I was getting ideas, and they were being given to my supplier or main supplier, and then he'd make them into something, and then everybody else would get the benefit from it as well. So At a certain point, 10 years ago, brought Alex on board, and he was working at another company that was doing in the same sort of field, although they were supplying police and more the corporate sector. And so he had a bit of knowledge on putting things together because that's what they did. And so I knew Alex back from when he was an investigator anyway. So it was always a plan that at some stage he would come on board with me. I just didn't know when. And when he came on board 10 years ago, I said, right, can we start making these things? And I got some ideas and we started putting them together. And of course, these ideas have proliferated from there. And you will see when you look at our products on our website that you'll see made by Spy Equipment UK, which is on the main or the short description. And that'll let you know that we actually make those products. There were our ideas, or let's say a variation of an idea, and it's our version of them. So we put those together, and we've got quite a lot of those now. And some products are big sellers, and some of them maybe not so big, but they are options for people to use. Anyway, coming back to the videos, you're going to get more videos like this. Hope I haven't bored you. We're going to get more videos with more interesting subject matter. We're going to try and put things across in a more engaging way, maybe talk about subjects that people are interested in. Because one of the problems that we have with our products, not everybody that comes to our website understands what they need to use the product for. And this is, of course, why we get people phoning us up. This is why we get people making appointments and coming in to see us, have things demonstrated, understand how they work. But of course, that only gets out to a few people who pick up the phone to us, are not scared to talk to us, are not worried about coming in to talk to us. A lot of our products are just bought without any pre-engagement at all. Nobody talks to us on the phone, or they may not talk to us on the phone, and they'll just simply buy. Now, there's two reasons for that. One, because they understand what they're getting in the first place, so they know what they want to achieve. Or two, they're just experimenting with it. Three, and this may come with both the first two, they don't want to talk to people because it's a very private matter or something that's a little bit difficult for them to discuss. And they end up deciding to go it alone. And sometimes they end up buying a number of products and spending probably more money than they should do because they might have got the wrong one in the first place. Or it gets them so far, but then they're going to need something else to go further. So this is where I think the videos will go down very well with people who maybe don't want to talk to us on the phone, haven't got the time, or they're just too far away really to come in and spend time with us to go through things. Because some of the subject matter we're going to talk about and discuss will be right up their street. We'll probably put some of our products in scenarios that will explain a lot more how these things work and people will understand them better, and hopefully people get some entertainment value out of them as well. So really that's what we're going to be doing going forward, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed before, please like the video and subscribe and share. So if you've got this far, thanks very much for watching. Apologies for the reflection of my glasses. Hopefully we're going to get the lighting a bit better next time, and so we don't get that. And hopefully we're going to have some really good content for you going forward. See you again.